If you joined us for part one, which I hope that you did, we talked more about that mental preparation. And then we started going into some of those technical questions that we all want to know. And so I just want you guys to be reminded of the word of the day from part one, which we've already dug into. So we're not going to go back into it. We're just going to mention it here. But the word of the day says absorb what is useful, discard what is not, add what is uniquely your own. And that was Mr. Bruce Lee from part one. So we just want you all to think about it, just in case you're only joining for part two. Listen, we had a lot of great conversation, and we're going to keep going a little deeper into some of the things that you really want to know about. So y'all, welcome Mr. Aldo back in the building.
Hello.
So raise voices. So listen, we are going to go into one of the questions I have had for years and that I get a lot. And here's the question, Mr. Aldo, you're on the spot. Do you need to get a home appraised that you're about to purchase? If you find something wrong with it, so you have interest, you and the seller says, hey, I think we're gonna go for it, but I still want to have an appraisal. You guys are in contract. You have the appraisal first. I need you to explain to the people what is an appraisal, how important is that? And then I find something wrong from the appraisal report and I want to pull out of the contract. Can I?
Sure. So we'll start with step one. So even prior to submitting an offer for a property, there's certain conversations you have to have. For example, inspection is one of them, and appraisal and mortgage contingencies is another one. So when you go into contract, you're kind of locked in. Unless something goes wrong. And what can go wrong is stuff called contingencies. So your mortgage is always a big contingency. If you can't get a mortgage, you can't get the house. You're not going to be held liable. So whenever I talk to a client that is looking to make a purchase on the offer on the house, and depending on how busy the market is or how popular the area is, we may even give the right to waive an appraisal. So let's go in the scenario where we don't waive the appraisal. What would happen is as soon as your contracts get fully executed, meaning the sellers have signed the contract and you as the buyers have signed the contract as well, that contract will now be sent to your bank. The bank will now issue an appraisal, which you would have to pay for. Every bank is different. Typically, they range from $700 to $1,000. And what happens is a bank sends out an appraiser, and he goes to the home and he takes pictures of the home. He measures the size of the home, sees the conditions of the home, and bases that price of your home off of his measurements, his photos, his analysts of other properties that sold in the area. And he will come with what he he thinks the house is worth, and that's what the appraisal is the bank's value of the home. Right, which is very important. We'll go with easy numbers. So let's say you're going to purchase a house for $100,000. And you're only putting 10% down towards your mortgage. So now realistically you're taking a mortgage of $90,000 over, right? Let's say your appraisal now comes back at $90,000. Well, you can't get the mortgage for $90,000 anymore because they have to put something down. So either two options happen. You have to either pay the difference, or you have to come up with an agreement saying, hey, you need to lower the price, or we'll go up and meet in the middle. There's different ways. It's a very complicated process when that situation does happen, but there's ways around it. But you're no longer taking a mortgage on $90,000 because you're still, if you want to put 10% down, now it would have to be
Yeah.
$81,000 mortgage, because the
Yes.
bank's only going to give you what they see the house's value worth. So you can make an offer for $500,000,
Yeah.
but if that appraisal comes back at $100,000, the bank's not going to give you a mortgage on all that money, because
Yes.
they don't
No.
they see it as a risk. It's a
Yeah.
risk factor. If they lost the home, if you can no longer pay for the home, and it gets foreclosed upon, and you lose the home, if they sell it, are they in the hole for $400,000 that now someone has that they can't get back?
Wow. So if I heard you, and correct me where I go wrong, I can get an appraisal before I go into contract?
No.
Wait. Oh, okay. Okay. Woo, okay.
This is
Because
what, yeah. Once you're fully executed in contract, your lawyer will send over that contract to the mortgage officer, and that mortgage officer will schedule an order, with your permission, of course, the appraisal.
so you have to get an appraisal, or you said there was,
You
is there
don't.
a way you,
Nope.
okay. But you,
You can wait the regular appraisal,
in your
which
opinion,
becomes
do you think, is it safer? I don't know, wiser to get an appraisal?
so. We can talk about this for like an hour.
I'm sorry. It's
this
just
a this a
interesting.
lengthy um.
So what
So
do you
there's a couple of
recommend
factors.
most of your clients? Do you recommend most of your clients that you've had, do they normally go do the appraisal, or are you a 50-50 that you have 50% that's like, hey, let's go, and the other 50 saying, no, I need to see a paper that tells me the value?
Um, most of the time, I suggest my clients uh to get the appraisal
Mm-hmm.
done and make sure the contingency is on there.
Mm-hmm.
Especially for people like first time home buyers,
Yeah.
where they're not putting a lot of money down.
Yes.
They don't have a lot of funds that they can because there's funds they have to pay that are non-refundable, like your appraisal, like your inspection fees, and
Yeah.
certain other docking fees that you don't get back no matter what.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. That's a
so
good point.
for most of the time, especially for first time home buyers, I do now. Every situation is different. If someone's making a giant lump sum and they really, really, really want the house,
Mm-hmm.
and they're putting, let's say, 50,000, half of the mortgage down, so half of the cost of the home down as a down payment.
Mm-hmm.
But they really want the house, and there's multiple offers on the house.
Yes. Yeah.
Then it might be wise for them,
Yeah.
for me to recommend to them to waive the appraisal, because if you make an offer on a house, let's say $500,000, and it only comes back at $400,000, now a lot of people, that would kind of cause them to back out. So now
Yes.
their highest and best
Yes.
is going to be limited by how much the bank's gonna. So if you're doing a highest and best offer situation, and you're getting a bank and you're
Yeah.
getting an appraisal, you could put an offer for $700,000, but that house comes back at 450.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's gonna be a waste of time for both parties.
For everyone. Yeah.
So
Yeah. So
exactly.
case
So
by
if you're in a
case.
situation, and that's where COVID kind of came in and messed a bunch of people around that were getting mortgages,
Yes.
because what happened was there were people coming in with just cash, and
Yes.
they weren't doing the appraisals, and they were going over the top, 150, $200,000 over the asking price. And the people with mortgage that would get mortgages,
Yes.
normal Joes, they didn't have a shot in the dark, because there's no chance. If I'm representing the seller, I would tell them to go with the person with the mortgage rather than somebody who's going with cash.
Yes. Yes.
Now, today's day and age, it's changed quite a bit. It's gone back towards more to the traditional ways, but you do
Yeah.
still run into a situation where there's multiple offers on a property. The market's still more aggressive than people realize.
Yeah. Especially if your property is sitting for quite some time, you're kind of still in a bit of a dire situation. So
Yeah,
so back to one of the points you made is keep saving, right? Don't, if your ultimate goal is to own,
yeah,
don't spend that money just because you've been outbidded or didn't get a shot. You kind of have to save for that shot so that when it comes, you can move
you
as
take it.
aggressively as you can move.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
So
yeah. Because when you find that home, you know right away, this is for me.
yeah. Yeah. So what is this thing about comps when the realtor says, let's look at the comps? Because now I found the home. Okay, I'm going with the dream. I'm excited. I'm prepared. I've been saving. I'm understanding more about the process. And then the realtor says to me, well, let's look at comps to see if we want to move forward. What does that language mean, that term comps? And should I care as a buyer what that means?
Um, it's really good information for you as an agent to know,
Mm-hmm.
and to educate your clients.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a comp is, or market analysis is a fancier term for it, is a comparable, um, it's a comparable way to compare. I'm sorry, it's a way to compare similar homes
Mm-hmm.
on what they're worth.
Got you. Got you.
Yeah. So what you would do is you would go onto the market. Our system's called the MLS. It's a system mostly every single realtor uses,
Mm-hmm.
and it allows us to see what's selling, what's not selling. It gives us some information, some charting,
Mm-hmm.
and it we could go through the system and we could look at how many, for example, if you're looking for 4 bedroom houses,
Mm-hmm.
how many 4 bedroom houses, 2.5 baths, 2,500 square feet in LaGrangeville, close to this area, same school districts. How many houses sold and for what did they sell for? Now,
Okay.
just because you broke it down to that level doesn't mean every single house is going to come out the same. There's a lot
Right.
of factors like how nice is the kitchen, how updated is the home.
Right.
Versus again, this is where it comes down to back when we talked about that first episode.
Yes.
We're putting money into the bank. I
Yes.
upgraded my kitchen. All of a sudden, my comparable is now a lot more money than
Yes.
what it was before. So that's what comps do. It helps us as realtors
Yeah.
to determine how much your house is worth. That's why we're no realtor is, and again, we're not putting any website, but your normal looking for a home
Yes.
situation. They'll give you a price, a estimate, quote unquote, and us as realtors, we absolutely dislike them.
I know.
They're not accurate at all.
Right. Right.
Please, please don't ask. Hey, I see this on this website. Is it worth this much? Because I'm most
Right.
likely going to tell you no.
Yeah. And sometimes
um,
even the taxes they have listed on those
totally incorrect.
main websites, they're incorrect. In a lot of cases, dependent on the state you're buying in, they're more.
Yep. And their status on the market is typically wrong. I get that question
Right.
all the time. Hey, I'd like to see this house. Is it available? Sorry, that's been in contract for about 6 months.
Right. 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 So
But in their defense, they have to do that because they have to keep up the eyes. They want you to look as much as possible because it means they're
yes.
being more successful. So
Yes.
if they have a bunch of houses that are technically off market because they're in contract, they're pending a contract, they're
Yeah.
pending a closing, then yes, they're not going to get looked at as much. So
Yeah. Agreed.
it's it's a
Agreed.
business, it's at
Yeah.
the same time it's a business.
So that leads me into one of the other technical things, earnest money. What is that, and should I care about it as a buyer? Everything is like,
Yes. And I just had that conversation with the client this morning. It is a sensitive client because it does require money up front. So what earnest money is, or in simple terms, is a good faith deposit.
mm-hmm.
It's basically saying I'm going to give you this money at the signing of the contracts on my side. That I'm not just going to randomly walk off on the deal.
Mm,
So if you're in contract fully executed, you give this money, this good faith deposit, and you're like, you know what? I no longer want the house. Screw that house. The house
yeah,
stinks. It smells
yeah,
like moldy cheese. You
right.
know, I'm out. You can't just do that. Unfortunately, you already made a commitment. You made a contract. And in this case, you would lose that good faith deposit. It would go to the seller.
Uh-oh. Oh, guys, so we
But
have to be committed out here. You don't put the money till you sure.
it's a normal processing. Typically, it is 10% of the total value of the home, but that number can change depending on how much money you're putting down towards your mortgage. So that number can change.
Yeah.
Um, and I can honestly speak for myself. I've never seen, and I've been doing this a while. I've never seen someone lose their earnest deposit.
Oh, thank God.
Uh
There's good.
yeah.
There's grace.
I mean, it's been done before,
Right.
but because of negligence, like, no, I don't want to buy it anymore. You know what I mean? That kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not as simple as like, oh yeah, we lost some money, it's gone forever. Technically, like they have to sue you for it. They have to go for a lawsuit. Takes time.
Wow.
It's a whole process. It's not just like, oh, I lost my money. There it goes.
Yeah. See, that vacation just ended. that whole
Yeah. So
that whole buy-in for the whole vacation excitement just ended on that. But that leads me into two other big ones. One is, how do I find out the equity that's in my home? So I've purchased a home, I'm in it. Who do I call up? I don't know. Do I look on does my realtor tell me? Is it the bank I go to?
so
Like, how do I know?
yeah. For someone like you lately, where I know you
Yeah.
personally, you could
Yeah.
easily call me like, "Hey, how much is my house worth?"
Yeah.
And I would tell you. Well, I'd give you an approximate because again, appraisers are gonna appraise
Right.
the house differently sometimes.
Yeah.
But I'll give you a fairly close approximate. And another way would be to hire your own appraisal or
Mm-hmm.
go to the bank if you feel like it's it's pretty like common knowledge to know, hey, I've owned my house for 20 years. It's probably worth more than what I owe left on it. But if you feel like you do have questions, you could always go to a mortgage officer. They can give you a quick kind of same thing breakdown. But it's always best to talk to a realtor because they'll give you the real worth. And you don't want to go to a mortgage officer and they run your credit right
Right.
away. And, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's always easy to talk to a realtor, and sometimes it might be worth it to refinance or get a HELOC, and
Yeah.
sometimes it might be better off maybe just to sell your home and go to something a little smaller
Yeah.
or something bigger. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
there's different scenarios, but
Good. That's a good
it,
understanding on that. Because I always wondered, like, how do you find, other than your best guesstimate? No, how do you
yeah,
really find out? And so, of course, I can understand those who own for 20, 30 years, but I was thinking of those who they're 5 years in, and maybe, like you said, they do want to downgrade or move out of state or something. Like, who do they call to find out?
go to a realtor. Yeah, we
Okay,
uh we answer those questions day and night. That's
perfect.
our profession. We're experts in the field. We have to go to classes for this. We have to do continuing education to this kind of stuff. We go to seminars, we go to webinars. There's it's a
Yeah.
lot. It's a lot of educating because that's our main goal is to provide the best knowledge of numbers that your house is worth.
And so, risers, I want to put a plug in here. As you guys know, I like to have clarity. And so what I am learning is that I had this preset that I go to the realtor for the beginning of the journey, and that's it. And then goodbye, realtor. But what you're saying to me is that there is a continued access that I can go back to the realtor for certain other questions, even having been in the home for a moment, that you guys have other information, right? That you can give me, even now that
Yeah,
I've kind of run the race for 5 years, 10 years, that there's still some follow-up questions that you can answer for me. And I didn't know that. So
yeah. For me is I always keep. I never delete the number once I sell the house. I always try to keep in contact, even if it's once a year. Be like, hey, how's the house going? Are you enjoying it? Good. How's things going? Just to even keep in touch because I like to do things on a little more personal level.
yeah,
Um, I bartended for a very long time, so I really enjoy talking to people, and you don't get to do that as much during the construction side as you do with the real estate side. So it brings me back to a little bit my bartending days. So it
I
makes me a
love
little bit
it.
enjoy to get
It's
into a little more personal
concierge.
aspect of things.
He's the new realtor concierge. We just be
But
throwing titles.
yeah, I mean, I enjoy talking about it. It's a job that I absolutely love to do.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's easy when people come to me with questions about that. I like the challenge, but I'm also very realistic. I'm not gonna toot your horn, so to speak, and oh yeah, your house is worth $1 million when it's really not. I don't like.
He says no unrealistic expectations over here.
Yeah, no,
Although he's giving boundaries to y'all. Y'all better listen up. So
yeah.
I have another term uh for you to break down for us. And guys, let me tell you this. Mr. Aldo is gonna come back and talk about the construction flipping part, right? Because we didn't even touch that. And we plan to. Just be patient. Be patient. Not in this part two, but at another time he'll come back. But this stuff is really good. But I hear debt to income ratio, and I need you to give me the kindergarten of that. And is it how important is it to the buyer? I know it's important to the realtor, but how important should it be to me?
Yeah, actually, it's more important to you than it is the realtor. It's good for us to know.
Okay.
But that is, in simple terms, that is your buying power. Your debt to income
Ooh.
ratio is your buying power.
Okay.
That basically tells you how much you can afford for this is a much better question for a mortgage officer than it is
Yes,
for a
yes.
realtor.
Right.
But I'll give you the simple terms for the most part,
Mm-hmm.
to the best of my ability. It allows you to figure out how much you can able to afford. And a lot of people get super scared because they see these numbers that mortgage officer gives them, like, hey, we're pre-qualified to $400,000.
Yes.
And but I don't want to go up to $400,000. I don't want to max out my pre-qual.
Yes.
What they don't realize is they're going off to a debt to income ratio. So bank's never going to put you into an opportunity where you
Mm-hmm.
can't afford it or you're going to be uncomfortable affording it.
Yes.
So a lot of people do like 40%, some do 45, even 50
Yes.
is the high side.
Yes.
But that when that comes into play, they also take in every account. So they're not talking about just 40% of the home cost. That includes car payments. That includes cell phone bills, any
Yes.
credit card debts you have. All that stuff gets calculated to your debt to
Yes.
income ratio. Basically,
Yeah.
they're seeing how much debt you have and then how much income you have. Now, a lot of people get scared about debt. There's good debt and there's bad debt.
Right.
Good bad debt is like a car. There's
Yeah.
not much investment opportunity into a car. It
Right.
it dwindles down. But a home is still considered debt, but it's considered good debt
Yes.
because it's always progressing.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah. I
but
like
debt
that.
nonetheless. So that's why they always look into cars and into your cell phone bills, into
Yeah.
your utilities. So when you go to a bank, it's not just like, hey, I'm here to apply for a mortgage.
Yeah.
Can you give me the number? Boom, there you go. They
Yeah.
go into your bank statements. They go into your W-2s. They go in. There's a lot of paperwork that goes into even just getting qualified and committed to a mortgage.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they really pick, and that's how debt to income ratios. They're going to make sure you're not going to pass this threshold with all of your debt.
Yeah.
So don't worry. That's why I said if you're looking for if you're pre-qualified to a $400,000 house, but you want to stick to 300, but you realize all your $400,000 houses are the house that you really want. It's
Yeah.
okay to look at. It's okay to go to your max. I know people get scared because like, oh, I don't want to
Right.
max out my credit card. A mortgage is a little different.
Yeah.
They're not going to put you in an awkward position to not
Yeah.
be able to pay that money off.
Oh, that was good. That's good. That's good. Listen, so I think Mr. Aldo might have a little tour we could do. I mean, is there anything you can show us of where you're at?
No, unfortunately
Not
not.
today?
I
Not
got
today?
yeah, I got a little busy. Not today. Maybe
Okay.
another time.
So there's gonna
But
be a future tour for
the
Mr.
future tour.
Aldo of a property. that's how
That's
we're
right.
that's how we're gonna leave that. Um,
Yeah,
so
it's gonna be a little experience of what it's like to go through a walk through a home with a realtor and see
perfect.
the
Okay.
things.
Oh boy, now we got future anticipation happening. So I got two more questions for you, and then we're gonna do our rise and fall, and we're gonna wrap it up. And people just
Sounds
gonna
good.
have to be happy. So this one might be a little bit different. I have heard, not that I know, I've heard that if you purchase land, that you own the land, and now you decide to build on it, you may not need to pay closing costs. Is that statement correct? Or I probably don't have all of it. I've heard from
So
others who have land, who have bought land
so
and they
yeah,
own it.
yes, you're right because in New York State, and as far as I'm concerned, I believe the tri-state area, you're not able to get a mortgage on land
Oh,
unless you have a construction loan saying you're going to build a property. In which case, yes, at that point you would have closing costs. At the end of your construction build, when everything gets finalized, you do have a closing cost still, but you're not able to go buy land outright. Hey, here's a 1 acre parcel. It's $100,000. I want to get a mortgage on it because there's no real way to. At least banks determine this way. There's no real way to appraise land because there's
okay.
so many different factors for land, and there's no value really to hold it to keep it controlled.
Yeah. So
So
that
banks
makes
typically
sense.
they don't. Yeah,
Yeah.
typically they don't. So if you want to buy land, it's typically cash. Again, unless you get a 203K loan, which is a construction loan, and you plan on putting a house there, and they would actually before you can get the full payments, the full reimbursement, you still need money for a construction loan. Before you get the full reimbursement, you would need to show completion of the project with your all of your CMOs and
Hmm.
the project completed. So
So is that different though? Just a little spin on it. Is it different if, let's say, my family left me land, so they own it outright? It's been in the family for a long time, and I'm now gonna build on it. I'm playing. Am I paying closing costs on the home I'm building, or does that like how does that work? So we've
closing
had
costs
this
only come
land.
into yeah, they only come into conversations when you're talking about a mortgage. When you're paying off when you're getting a mortgage,
Mm,
closing costs are your fees, your scheduling fees, everything a bank's
mm,
gonna charge you. That's what they consider closing costs, which tends to be like 2.5 to 3% of the home value. That's
got
how
you.
we typically calculate, but it's not inaccurate. It's more again a mortgage officer question. But
Yes.
you will still have to pay fees. So you will still have to pay a title transfer fee because you got transferred to your name.
Hmm.
You would still need to pay your lawyer fees to do all documentation for you. So there's still fees that New York State requires
Okay.
for you to pay to transfer stuff into your name.
Okay.
But yeah, as far as the closing costs, unless you're getting a mortgage, there's no closing costs.
Okay. I'm so glad you wrapped up that closing cost because I didn't realize. Yeah, we think it's for everything now. We're like, now
Yeah.
it's time to get our money. No, listen, right? We
Bring a
just
blank check.
right. Sign everything away. No. So listen, this was a great episode, Mr. Aldo. We appreciate you coming
It's more than my pleasure.
and just educating us. I learned so much. So we are going to do our rise and fall, and our rise is from this conversation what we've learned that we are going to incorporate or implement into our lives. And the fall is what are we going to let go, leave it, get rid of it, try to get rid of it because it's no longer relevant or beneficial to us. So, Mr. Aldo, do you have one? Do you have a rise?
Yeah, rise is prepare, plan, be aware, and save. And
Yes.
then let go I would say I would say let go of the fear because it can be a very stressful situation, a lot of unneeded stress, but there's a lot of I don't think know a single millionaire or billionaire who doesn't own real estate. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. You know what I
Right.
mean? So
Right.
the rich are doing it for a reason. So I would say I know it's a scary jump, but try to let go of that fear and try to enjoy the process every single step of the way.
Yeah, that's good. I would say my rise is from this conversation to always ask whoever I'm doing business with about these terms because people explain them in different ways. And I kind of like the
Mm.
way you explained them because I had some things wrong in my mind as to what equaled what. So
Mm.
my rise is to keep asking those questions always to make sure I understand what I'm getting into in this whole home buying experience. Always ask the questions as many times to make sure I'm sure. And the fall is it's about like I could buy that house that's at the street. Like stop again
Yeah,
judging the book by the cover. Open the book, like you said, enter the home, see if it's yours. Like don't just
that's
stand
right.
outside saying It's at the main street. I can't live in it. I'm gonna let that. Right. I'm gonna throw that thought away because you
Right.
valid point. So that's my fault. I'm not gonna judge the homes anymore that are, and then go inside and have the experience and enjoy that. So I thank you, sir, for joining us. Listen, risers, another journey completed. I need you guys to get us to 100 subscription by the end of this month. It is my birthday month. Yes. Okay. I ain't going to tell you the date. Just get us there by the end of this month. I need to get us to 100 subscribers so we can have more guests come in. You guys know I'm only going to ask you one or twice. That's it. We do not beg over here. We only ask. We don't demand, and we do not order. We send our love. We send our heart. And we say to you, rise because you can. See y'all soon now. Have a brilliant day. And I appreciate y'all. Bye, everyone.
Take care.